appreciating you all. We want to begin officially with national anthem, and this is what we are going to relay for us to be able to, we just show and display through the screen the song. For some of us who are not from Nigeria, you may not be able to sing the song, but you can follow the melody of the Nigerian national anthem. Why we start with the Nigerian national anthem. So please, you just follow us while we just share the song. welcoming the speakers. Okay, you can hear. We are welcoming the speakers. The keynote address speaker, Professor Miriam Hamid from Ben Gurion University of the Negev, Israel. Also, Dr. Foluke Ishola from Sweden, and also Associate Professor Taiwo Adenegan from Nigeria. We welcome Professor Miriam Hamid to deliver a keynote address. Professor Hamid, you are welcome. Please, you can unmute yourself to deliver your talk, please.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm talking from Israel, Tel Aviv, and I wish you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. I'm very honored to participate in this conference. I think it's important, especially in these horrible times of the COVID-19. And I'm very thankful to my old friend, Dr. Manuel Kainda, and to the Green Institute for the invitation. Since our time is limited, so I will start in a second. I just want to tell you that the fact that I can sit here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and you are there, and we see you nice and clear, and we can communicate, this is a big hope for the world to communicate during and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, which is really, really horrible for the whole world. I gathered some numbers. So first of all, Shalom. This is Hebrew. We write it from right to left. This is Shalom. And Shalom we say when you go in, when you go out, when you leave, when you just say hi. We don't say hi, we say Shalom. And Shalom also means peace. The meaning of Shalom is peace. So we really hope that there will be Shalom in the world during and after this pandemic. So what are we doing where are we? Some numbers, since I'm a mathematician originally, so I like numbers. So let's have numbers. And the numbers are the following. Until 2 days ago, there were more than 51 million infected in the world. Can you imagine? More than 1.3 million dead. More than 210 states and territories all over the world in all continents. And it's not only in underprivileged areas, because the first one is USA, and then India, Brazil, France, Russia. It's really, and it's a big challenge. It's challenging time, and we need a global effort in everything. So my presentation here is the overview. With the permission of the host, I will give a little overview about Israel, about the educational system, which is taking from all over, because I will talk about the population. Then the C, something is wrong, okay. Then the C theory, my theory, sustainability, the green curriculum, and COVID-19 education and international perspective. Then a recommendation for one world. So first of all, some words about Israel. This is our flag. This is the sign that's called the Star of David. It's more than 3,000 years old. This is our light menorah. This is the sign. And this is also ancient, 2,500 years. Everything here is ancient. Israel is very small. We have only 9.2 million. You are much, much bigger and much larger. Also in space, we are only 22,000 kilometers. I will show you how small we are. This is the map of Israel, and we have very holy places. We have Jerusalem, we have Bethlehem, we have Nazareth, we have the Sea of Galilee, all the places that, you know, both the Muslim origins and the Christian origins started there. So Israel is a small country with very big ambitions. If we look at the globe, please have a look. This little point, this is Israel. You don't see it. Look according to Nigeria, which is much bigger, 40 times bigger, but everybody knows about us. We are surrounded with Arab nations, the Mediterranean. Here is Europe, here is the East and the Middle East. So we are really between cultures, and we suck in from all cultures and we create a new culture. Population, 75% are Jewish, 20% Muslims. I think now there are more Christians, maybe 4%, and the rest are others. So we are really mostly a Jewish nation, but we also appreciate the other religions. We started as a nomad nation, and we are now a startup nation. And since we are short in time, I will make it very fast. So 3,000 years ago, Abraham, our founder, was promised by God that Israel will be for the Jewish people forever. And Israel, as you can see, is mostly a desert, not nowadays. Then there was a kingdom of Israel. 600 years, more than 600 years, there was a kingdom from 521 BC until 70 CE. By the way, for those who are Christian, during the time of the kingdom, Israel was also overruled by the Romans, who also crucified many people in Israel. For hundreds of years, Israel was ruled by Ottomans, by Romanian, and then until the 20th century, the beginning of century, Britain took over, and we were under the mandate of Britain, like Nigeria was also under the British mandate. In May, during this time, there was a flux, Zionism. The word Zion is Jerusalem. You know it from the Bible. Zionism began to spread all over Europe, started the kibbutzim, which is like a commune, and people from all over the world, Jewish people, came into and started to establish the foundations of a new Israel in the 20th century. They established cities like Tel Aviv and re-established Jaffa, that was mentioned in the Bible, and Jerusalem, of course, which is the holy city for everyone. 14 May 48, Declaration of Independence by Ben-Gurion David, and this is our university, is named after Ben-Gurion from the declared independence in 1948. So we see we are a very young country, 72 years old, that's all. Some photos, this is Jerusalem. What you see here is the Muslim center, the Christian center, and the Jewish center. In 1 kilometer, you have the centers of 3 main religions in the world, and they really live together. This is a holy city for all religions. We have the Dead Sea, which is the lowest place in the world, minus 400 meters, lot of minerals, everything. We have Tel Aviv. This is a city, the New York of the Middle East. We have beaches, white sands, skyscrapers, day and night. It's a lively city of 24 hours. I invite you to come one day to Tel Aviv. This is the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus used to walk on water. And sometimes it's very easy to walk on water there because the water is very shallow. And it's also mentioned in the Holy Bible. Most of Israel is a desert like this, but we decided we don't like deserts and we don't have water. So what you see here is how the desert looks today. And why is it so? Because we have a very smart use of resources. We have irrigation, we have underground irrigation, we have canals that are bringing the water from the north. We have solar energy. We have dripping water. And if you go now to the desert, this is what you see. You see fruits, you see wheat, you see green, and everything is exported to Europe, and we get dollars that we can invest and promote technology more and more. But the very strong thing after agriculture is technology. We are really a nation that everyone is touching technology, boys and girls, which is very nice in that sense. We have now remember, we are only 9 million. We have more than 10,000 startups every day, meaning along the year. We have patent per capita, the first in the world. We have no choice. We are small, we have no resources, and we are very strong in sustainability also because we have no choice. So we are a startup nation, and we have here Elvit. Okay, I will stop it. But what we have also, we have a very, very strong army which reflects the population of Israel. In Israel, we have people from 192 places, states in the world. We have also people from Nigeria. Many, we have all religions, all colors. And all these are encapsulated in the melting pot, which is called the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. It's compulsory. Every boy and girl at the age of 18 have to go to the army for 2 or 3 years. I was there, my husband was there, my daughters were there, everyone. So here you see girls, and as you can see, we have all races. And here you have soldiers who came from all over the world, Jewish soldiers, and they participate and they are holding the flags where they are coming from. So we are really a melting pot. But the IDF is not only to defense. Here you have girls that are doing everything because equity and excellence is very strong in Israel. So she was my student. She's now an officer. They are doing everything in the army forces. This is an officer course. We have pilots, girls. I'm very proud, not only because I have 3 daughters, but because they are doing everything. And a very important thing, many soldiers are going to remote areas to help the underprivileged or the newcomers in education. So they teach. And here you have a newcomer from Africa and a girl who came from Russia. She's now a soldier. And when she will grow up, she will be a soldier and she will help the next generation. So here you see helping everyone. And these are the children of Israel. And we are proud of our children. And the focus is the children of Israel. And every child in Israel has one dream: to have education, good education, and to become Einstein. Einstein was Jewish, and we are very proud, and this is the premise. So this was a short overview of Israel, and now I will talk about the educational system. First of all, we don't have private schools at all. Do you have private schools in Nigeria?
Yes, so
Okay.
We have private schools in Nigeria.
Okay, here is public schools and excellent schools. So there is equity, no matter if your parents have money or no money. My parents were very poor, and look where I am today. So this is the equity of public schools. It's compulsory from age 3 until the age 12. Everyone has to be in school. There is a national curriculum, very strict one, and I was in charge of national curriculum mathematics for the whole state for 12 years. It was called the Israeli Chief National superintendent for mathematics. We have a national teacher education and certification, and the enrollment is really high. I think it's more than 90. This is the official one. I think that almost 100% participate in schools. Nursery 1 to year to 3, kindergarten 3 to 6, elementary school 6 to 12 age, junior high school 12 to 15, and upper high school 15 to 18. This is a mixture of the European and American system. Teacher education, very important. You cannot go to school if you are not certified. For K to 12, you get, there is a college for teacher education, you get a BEd, and for the upper grades, you get a BSc, but now it's compulsory also in MSc. For elementary school, it's a whole teacher. She teaches everything. For high school, you have to be a major in mathematics or physics or geography in order to teach. It has to be very professional. We have a national assessment system. I will go faster because of the time. And the focus of teacher education is two things. You must have pedagogical knowledge, content knowledge, and pedagogical content knowledge. These are the three foresights. On top of it, you have 2 years of experience before you get a certificate, guided experience in the schools. I will go faster. We are very much pupil-centered, and we have several populations. We have rural, really rural, and city populations, which are different. We have special needs who get special treatment. We have many underprivileged societies, mostly from the Arab and Bedouin communities, where they get special attention. And there is another population, the bright minds. We cultivate the bright minds. Many times they are transparent because they are not problematic in the school, but I created the most prominent program in Israel, and this I promise to give another lecture. The program is called Kidumatica. Kidum is forward, Matica, and we really take the best kids from the underprivileged areas and we really bring them to the top. A very prominent program, and the logo is a three-dimensional Möbius ring, and the idea is EE, equity and excellence. So here is how we revitalize the 21st century. Skills and knowledge you can get from the Google now, everything. But we want to make education interesting, relevant, motivational, challenging, fun, and adaptive to all strata. And my theory for skills for the 21st century, I call it the C theory. And now knowledge you can accumulate. Knowledge today is obsolete tomorrow. So my theory is we have to cultivate critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. You have to collaborate in order to make progress. It's not a one-man show. Communication, you have to communicate your ideas. If you just swallow them, it won't make progress. Commitment, if you are not committed, you cannot achieve everything. And of course, to be curious to other cultures, to other things, to innovations. And this is my theory for the 21st century education. Let's go back to sustainability. I'm watching the time. We called it greening the curriculum. From the word green, you are a green institute. Current trend in environmental education. This is in Israel, but this is also in many countries in Europe, in North America, and in Middle South America. And the idea is there are leading national initiatives to provide programs to the schools. And we have 3 huge programs: Keepers of the Environment, the Green Network, and Green Schools. I will talk about the keepers of the environment. In every school, you have those keepers who are looking around and transmitting the knowledge. There is a national network to think about the programs and how to implement it. And we have the green schools. And every school wants to be a green school. But in order to be a green school, you have to see what is the sustainability in Israel educational system. The rationale is promoting sustainability in education leads to educational achievements, social achievement, change in attitudes, and change in behavioral. This is the general aim. In order to achieve this aim, we have to work from preschool. Children at age of 2 or 3 know what is sustainability. In Hebrew, it's much easier. It's kayamut, so it's a shorter word. Everyone from preschool to the end of high school. Then we have national school competition. The green schools are competing. We have a national cleanup day. One day in the year, the whole nation is thinking and learning about sustainability. And we have something beautiful, which is called the youth movements. Like there are the scouts. Do you have the scouts in Nigeria? We have here youth movements, socialists, no socialists, the scouts, and there is a youth movement that the aim of it is sustainability. And they have field trips, they have camps, and everyone wants to participate in such a camp for sustainability. In order to be certified as a green school, you need to do 3 things. You have to be committed to change of consumption. You have to be location-based learning. The school is part of the location and part of the community, so you have to participate with the community. And you have a curriculum that emphasizes the expansion of knowledge base and experimental pedagogy. You have to do active learning. You have to use research in order to implement it. You have to solve environmental problems and so on, so on. So there is a very strict program in order to be certificate as a green school, but there is much competition in order to be certificate of a green school. I want to talk about the curriculum. It's a special curriculum, and here you have some of the topics of the curriculum. You have behavior in accordance to the sustainability principles. You have reduction of pollution and environmental. This is the second topic that kids learn in school. They learn about the climate change, about greenhouse, and so on, so on. They learn and experience waste and consumption. They learn a lot about alternative energies. In Israel, we have a water problem, so a water use, and of course, the biodiversity and open spaces. Every child in Israel has to learn all these topics and to know, not only to learn. In order to be accredited, please look, there are 3 points: the environmental curriculum, activities with the community, and intelligence use of resources. Everything is very thought out in order to do it. But we cannot forget that we are now in the COVID-19, and we are talking in a conference of sustainability. So let's see how it was refined. And here I went to the United Nations in New York. I took documents and I listened to lectures. And in January 2020, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak of a new coronavirus disease, the COVID-19, and it was declared to be a public health emergency of international concern pandemic. And I emphasize international concern. I will get back to the international. The current definition of sustainability is very shallow. meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. This is the common definition that says, for me, almost nothing. So there are 3 pillars, and now the United Nations, last August, 3 months ago, refined it. The 3 pillars were economic development, social development, and environmental development. But in last August, sustainability was redefined, and the 4th pillar was added by the United Nations, and this is the human health. And now we see how important is the human health, so the society in the world will be sustained. So what is going on today? Let's go back to education during COVID-19 and beyond. First of all, what's going on here? Okay. First of all, the COVID-19 pandemic has created the largest disruption of education systems in the human history. Never before, even not in world wars, was such a disruption. It's all over. It's affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 200 countries and in all continents in the world. The closure of schools and other learning spaces have impacted 94% of the world's students' population and up to 99% in the low and lower middle income countries. So what we know, if before then there was a gap between different countries, now the gap is huge and enlarging all the time. This was declared, as you see, by the United Nations, August 2020. Okay, but there is a ripple effect. I just want to remind you, excuse me. The ripple effect is, if you are not sure, if you throw a stone in the water, you have these concentric cycles. And this is the ripple effect. One stone makes waves all over. So the ripple effect beyond education, this disruption, will continue to have sustainable effect extending beyond education. There will be food insecurity. There will be economic instability. We see it all over in the Americas, in Europe, in the Far East. And there is much, much more violence against women and girls all over the world, because this tension creates violence. So it's not only education, it's food, it's economic, it's violence, and much, much more. So if we shall improve the education, maybe the ripple effect will be smaller. I'm okay with the time. Some recommendations for education during the COVID-19 and beyond. 1, suppress transmission of the virus and plan thoroughly for school reopening. We in Israel, we reopened the school too early. And you know what happened with the pandemic? The infection went 10 times up because it was not solved well. It was not slowly and gradually. And now we are doing different, and the curve is almost stopped. Second, build reliance education system for equitable and sustainable development. Equity is a very important thing now beyond the COVID-19 when the economics are collapsing. Reimagine education and accelerate change in teaching and learning. Look, we are not teaching like a year before. The classes are closed, the schools are closed. Suddenly, I will talk about it, what are the changes. But we have to reimagine what education is about. And a very important thing, we have to enhance consultation and communication mechanism with societies, and I will go. The school cannot be a bubble anymore. The university cannot be an ivory tower anymore. The university has to go from an ivory tower to a light tower, and this is the premise. Shock and aftershock of the pandemic. All levels of education were affected. A wide range of distance learning tools are developed. A genuine effort is made to promote inclusive learning for everyone, and there is a big recognition of teachers' need and the profilization of teachers. Teacher is a profession, and this is now much more recognized than before. Implications and conclusions soon. Implications beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. First of all, innovation. Innovation became suddenly from the margin to the center of many, many educational systems. In many educational systems, there was a much talk about innovation. We have to make innovation, we have to use innovation, but it was marginal. It was slowly. And suddenly, because of the COVID-19, innovation is not a margin. Innovation is now every day, but everyone all over the world. And this is a big, big implication beyond COVID-19. Another implication is new educational allies. One of my daughters is a doctor. The other one is an economist. The doctor is working in the hospital, but the economist is working from home. And suddenly she sees what's going on in the classroom, what her children are studying. So now there are new allies in the pandemic, and the pandemic has to galvanize new actors from the community, parents, social workers, and so on, to support the children learning like never before. Before the children went to school, the teacher closed the door and it was there. Now everyone, and we need new allies in order to promote education. And this is a very important implication of the COVID-19. So we are talking about innovation, we are talking about new education allies. And here you have a short slide that shows that schools are here, but the schools are now working with community institutions. Churches all over the world open their doors. Mosques open their doors for the learnings. Health and social protection agencies are working now with schools. Employers, industry, businesses not only give money, but they give manpower in order to help the schools. There are new out of schools programs. People are learning in the fields, in the forests, on the beaches, everywhere. And of course, technology. Without technology, you cannot do anything innovative now in the schools. So here you have how the new allies and the innovation are encapsulated together as an implication of the COVID-19 on education. Last but not least are the conclusions. My conclusion is internationalization. The pandemic doesn't make any difference between nations, races, religions, gender, colors, everything. The pandemic is everywhere. The pandemic is international. And if we want to overcome and to promote education, in spite of the pandemic, we need an international effort. And my conclusion is that beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a responsibility, a duty in the international community to stay true to educational principles, to conduct reforms, to take action. I say it again, the international community all over, they have to stay true to educational principles, to conduct reform all over the world, and to take actions so that all children and young people in the world, all over the world, get an education that prepare them for our changing times and regain their promised future. We have to make sure, international, that these children are prepared for the changing time, and we have to regain, to make sure, to promise their good future during and after the COVID-19 pandemic is over. So I say, let's go to the international community, let's unify, let's work together and do it. And here we have a small example. We have an ethnomathematics international group that we meet in many, many conferences. This is a conference that we met in 2016 in Germany, an ICME, International Commission of Mathematics Education. Here, everyone, but everyone is from a different state, from a different nation. You have all races, all religions. And if you see the two people here, do you see? So that's me. And this is my real good friend Kahinda. And these are people from all over the world. And only in unified effort, we can go over and really, really assure a better life, good education, and promise a good future to the young children, to the youth, and the people all over the world. I wish you safe, good health. I say again, thank you and shalom. And here is Professor Miriam Amit from Ben Gurion University, and greeting from Tel Aviv, Israel. All the best. Thank you very much.
Oh, what a wonderful presentation from Professor Miriam Hamid from Ben Gurion University, Israel. I want to thank you so very much for this wonderful time and that great presentation. Shalom once again.
Shalom.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I want to hand over the question time to Dr. A.A. Akishemolu. Dr. Akishemolu, please, over to you. Unmute yourself and take charge of the question time.
If there is any question, fine. And if you are not, you can email me. You have my email here, and you can email me, and you will get any information if there are not questions now.
All right. Thank you, Professor Amit, for the wonderful presentation. It was excellent, and we really enjoyed the presentation. It was very, very informative. First, my question is that we know that education for sustainability.
I don't hear you. Say it again.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Okay. All right. I said thank you so much for your presentation. It was very informative. My question goes that education for sustainability covers three aspects of which is the social, the economic, and the environmental. In most educational system, we focus more on the social and maybe part a little bit of economy by by teaching students to be entrepreneurs. But the environmental aspect has been a little bit not really touched on. So how do you think that we can incorporate environmental sustainability into education? Because for instance, the COVID-19 that recently happened is as a result of, even though we know that infectious diseases
I'm sorry, I don't hear you. Either you write me but I don't hear you well. Sorry, something is wrong. You will have to write me because I don't hear you. Sorry.
Okay.
Prof. Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Yes, yes.
Now
I hear you better.
You can hear better. I guess it's network from Dr. Akishemolu, but that shouldn't be a problem. we can take questions from the chat box so that questions can be taken from the chat box. And then, of course, that can be, you can see that. So please, if there's anybody having question and maybe because of accent or what have you, that a prof cannot hear you right, you can drop your questions on the chat box, which everyone can see, including Prof. Amit, who can quickly answer before we call on the next speaker. Okay, please, Dr. Akinshemolu, you may still have to coordinate that. Okay, Prof, just check your chat box and you'll see questions if questions are rolling in. Dr. Akinshemolu, over to you, please.
Okay, I think that we have to give up the questions because it's not working. Oh, maybe you can repeat the question.
Can we ask anything?
I hear you. And now I hear you.
Oh, thank you, Professor Amit. Yeah. So I'm Shirley, Dr. Young from Hong Kong, and working as an associate professor in the Gracia Christian College, which is the United Nations Prime, the principal for responsible management education for a number of years. And I'm the associate VP for UNESCO Hong Kong, and also working for Kenya for the UN SDSN. Yeah. So thank you for your very good presentation.
Yes.
Especially, I love the part on social inclusion about women. And I just wonder, in the past about 6 months, we've been using Zoom, a lot of technology for teaching for me. And for the developing country, because they have no access to Wi-Fi, and I think sometimes we can do something because we have a lot of new knowledges that we want to transfer to those students there. But I just wonder what kind of ways we can share the information, but not through Wi-Fi, or how to help. I just wonder how to offer our help, but they don't have a lot of technology or Wi-Fi or Zoom or any other thing. So you have any experience on those areas? I've visited Israel about 5 years ago.
Okay, so you know that we are, thank you for your question. In Israel, we still have some communities that Wi-Fi is not very available. And there is another thing. Can you imagine there is a family with 4 children, but there are only 2 computers or 1 computer at home. So they are fighting all the time to get a computer. So we are looking also for alternative ways. One alternative way was through radio and television. They don't have Wi-Fi, but they have television and they have radio. By the way, many of them have also the cellular phones. So yes, many of them have the cellular phones. So it was through the cellular phone, through a television, and through radio. Radio is not so good, but television almost every house. So it was another use. It's not communicative. You cannot interact. You can interact only with the cellular, but it's almost one way and you can deliver. Another thing was when there was no education, no technology, different ways of teaching were implemented, like teaching in the open space.
So, you know, for the
you have to reimagine. We have special television programs for different age levels. Unfortunately, it's in Hebrew, but one day when I will come again to in Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong several times, but next time, yes, next time I can translate or help translate. So we have it in Hebrew. It's according to grade level. It's very easy to follow, and you don't need the Wi-Fi. So this is one way to go over it. Radio is not so much because it's only hearing. Television, you hear and see, and it's very communicative.
Yeah, if you have some connection about the TV program or anything, because I have a lot of content, but I just wonder how to access with the TV program or channel or anything. I can just, give to them, and then they can help, for those people to learn. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, I have connections. Yes, I
Okay.
have. It's
All
called
right.
the.
All right. Thank you, Shelley Young from Hong Kong. Prof, there are 3 questions in the chat box now. Please quickly just go through them before we invite the next
Oh,
speaker. There are 3 questions on the
can
chat
you?
box.
Can we,
Check the chat
Where
box
is
now.
it? I see. Okay, let's see.
Okay, one
how do
Okay,
we,
just a
one
sec.
from Dr. Akinshemolu, the other one from Dr. Obasoro, another one from Living Green. So we have 3
Okay,
questions.
can you please explain what does it mean to involve the
so
following schools, families, community? Yes, I can explain. Now, to involve the communities and technology, of course, it's clear because we are teaching with the Wi-Fi, with the internet, but the communities are centered in the different communities. We take nurses, we take social workers, they are not doing the teaching, but they support families with more children. They support the atmosphere. They deal with violence. So it's not only the teaching and learning which they help, but it's also the surrounding of teaching and learning. And this is what the community is doing. Even businesses, there are businesses that are sending now the engineers to the schools, because if you cut the classes to half, you need more teachers. If you don't have more teachers, you take educated people. So many businesses say their engineers 2 or 3 days a week, you go to the schools. And here you have the community, how they integrated in the school. And of course, it's the family engagement, parents, siblings are helping, things they were never done before. So this is the way that I mean the involvement of more than the teacher. The school is more than teaching, it's involvement of the community. Second question. Okay, I was talking about no access to internet, and I said we have also these problems, and this is a problem. Not having internet is a problem that I cannot recommend how to overcome, except using other things, using the cellular, using the television. There are very good programs, and using the open space. So this maybe will help a little, and maybe this will accelerate the governments to put money in the remote areas for more interest, because now it's not luxury, it's a must. So this can also accelerate social and economical promotion from the government to places that need really the internet. So this is the only thing that I can do for it. And now I'm looking the other one. School communities. I think that I answered it.
Just left with
I
a question.
answered how to incorporate environmental sustainability into our education. I gave the topics that I dealing for school, and it's part of the curriculum. There is a curriculum. There is mathematics, there is physics, there is English, there is art, and there is a subject called sustainability. And within this subject, we have topics. And this is part of the curriculum. Like you have to teach equations and trigonometry, you have to teach different resources of energy, or how do consumption you make better. So this is the way you integrate it into the education through a curriculum which is strict. And you also can create the youth movement, you can create a commitment, but if you make it part of the curriculum, this is a pivot to go on and go into the educational system with sustainability. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so very much,
No
Prof.
more questions.
Yes, thank you so very much. We give it to you. We appreciate Shalom. We want to go into the next presentation now. I want to
Shalom.
present The next speaker, who is Dr. Foluke Ishola from Gothenburg Energy, Sweden. We can just ask the bow of Dr. Foluke Ishola. She is an environmental engineering, in works material under specialization on material recycling and renewable energy researcher. She has a bachelor and master's degree in chemical engineering from Ladoke Akintola University of Technology and Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, and a PhD in resource recovery from the University of Bora, Sweden. Dr. Foluke Ishola has more than 10 years of experience in research and development, as well as industry within renewable energy, material recycling, waste and environmental management. She worked on a postdoctoral at Chalmers University of Technology. She's currently an environmental engineer and researcher with Gothenburg Energy in Sweden. She's also currently involved in coaching and mentoring young talented Nigerians for international studies and opportunities. She's one of the Nigerians in diaspora and based in Sweden. Dr. Foluke Ishola, you are welcome on board, and we are happy to have you. Dr. Foluke Ishola, thank you for coming, and we are glad that you are here. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Adenegon. Can you please allow me to be able to share my screen?
Okay, thank you. We'll do that in the right away. You're welcome. Okay, Doctor, you have the floor now to share your screen. Yes, you have the floor to share your screen, Doctor. Dr. Ishola, you can share your screen, please.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Yes,
Please,
you.
Can you hear me? Just give me a thumb up if you can hear me, so I know you are hearing me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the Green Institute, and thank you, the organizers of this program. As I have been introduced, my name is Foluke Ishola, but my full name, which is typical in Nigeria, is that we have a full long name, and the full one is Mofoluake Ishola, in case you'd like to read more about my published work. And I've been a researcher at the University of Borås and at Chalmers University in Sweden. I grew up in Nigeria, as you have been told, and I moved to Sweden in 2011 when I began my PhD, and I graduated in 2014. I will be talking about the transformative role of education in pioneering sustainable waste management in sub-Saharan Africa. And for us to really understand this topic, one of the questionnaires was asking Professor Amir about the environmental aspects. And that was exciting for me because I will be focusing more about that. I have a passion for environment and sustainability issues. So I work as I'm practicing as an environmental engineer with the great Göteborg Energy, one of the biggest energy provider in Sweden. And we produce district heating, district cooling, electricity, and we have a lot of sustainability work. So when I received the invitation to this conference, it was a top notch, not only for me, but also to Göteborg Energy. So this is my contact details in case you want to come to me, you want to ask some questions, or you want to establish a collaboration. I have my private email under my official email. Sustainability and transformational effects is what we are going to be looking at. And I'll be talking about this education and its transformative role, because the first speaker also pinpointed things about education that is very important for us to know. So I will also go briefly about the education. And since I'm talking about the sustainable waste management, which is the core, then I will also delve into that and what is exactly the sustainable waste management and what we should know. And the excellent Swedish waste model of sustainable waste management will be presented. And with all these concepts, we will suggest how we can pioneer a sustainable waste management to sub-Saharan Africa, and how we can develop our own waste management problem in Africa. And I will be concluding after that. And what is education? Professor Amir has said a lot of things, but I want to buttress some facts that we should know that education in itself is a process. It takes time, it takes effort. And it's not just a process, it is a process of facilitating teaching, learning, and exchanging information. So it is very important that we know that this process leads to acquiring knowledge, competencies, values, beliefs, and habits. So education is not just taking place in the classroom. It's taking place outside the classroom as well. Even when we are sitting down on a conference like this, it's also a process of education. In our churches, in our religious places, in our outdoor activities, it's a form of education. So we have to know that every opportunity to learn and to develop, we are acquiring knowledge and we are gaining information. And also it is important for us to know that we need different stakeholders in education processes. The pedagogy methodology that Professor Amir has talked about is very important tool in teaching and learning, and we have to take that into consideration. And for us to know that education is the fourth on the sustainable developmental goals, which means that quality education for all is very, very important. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of education. And if education will transform us in our waste management in Africa, we need to know that education changes the mind. It empowers the mind. If we get quality, proper education and we are trained, we have this ability to think outside the box. And the education that we have acquired over the time creates a critical thinking ability in us. So it improves our perspectives to life, to things. By education, we develop this habit of being solution-mindedness. We know there is a problem in Africa about our waste management. We know pandemic is a problem, but then we are not just talking about the problem, we are talking about the solutions to the problems. So that is what education gives the mind of a person. This technology that we can use to have a conference all over the world, this is part of a solution to a problem. And by the time they were innovating this Zoom technology and all these teams, they probably didn't have an idea that in 2020 there will be an outbreak like this. They were just thinking ahead because they had the proper education. That's what education does to the mind of a person. And another thing that it does is it gives the ability to challenge the status quo as an agent of change. Not as an agent of disruption, but agents of change. So we have a growth mindset when we get a proper education. And this education, if you want to transform us in Africa, we have to understand what is the current waste management practices that we have in Africa. I just wanted to say, today it is common that in Africa, this is what we have. Most of our waste management practices is this open dumping. Sometimes on the street, we see waste like this. We see it behind our houses sometimes, and we have a lot of mountains, man-made mountains that has been created. This is from Nigeria, where I came from. And we have these mountains just by waste, not by nature. And what can we do to all these man-made mountains that we have made? And this is not good for our environment. So the only way that is common in Africa, we see scavengers going to all these landfills to pick the plastic, sometimes the metals. They are just trying to do their own recycling in their own way. And looking at the third picture, the way of volume reduction, just to reduce the volume, is we have this open burning. And if you look at all these processes, they are not sustainable at all. And what we are doing is that we are wasting our valuable resources by doing this kind of practices. So not just not sustainable, we have to do something. And when we have this kind of waste management that we have today in Africa, what are the consequences? We need to know it's not good for us in terms of material utilization. It's not good for us in terms of environmental issues. So it has a lot of effects. The environmental consequences of unsustainable waste management, like we have in Africa today. We have environmental pollutions. We have land and water issues, contaminations everywhere. And just like it has been said earlier on, part of the problem we have today from the pandemic is also part of an environmental issues. And also we know in Africa, we have outbreak of diseases, cholera, typhoid, and you have to spend a lot of money to treat all these, use antibiotics, get this and that. So it's a huge problem for the environment. And apart from that, when we combust waste, there is a very dangerous chemical that is released during waste combustion, dioxin. And this dioxin is very toxic, and research has shown that women, they can even pass dioxin through the breast milk to their children when they have it in their own body. So we even pass dangerous chemical to the next generation unknowingly. So we are not just damaging this present generation, we are also affecting the future generation with unsustainable waste management practices. And it has been shown that every human being that is living today have a certain amount of unknown chemicals, unknown substances to the nature in their body. So we have to act. We need to do something to tackle this problem of unsustainable waste management. And apart from these things that I've said, we are also damaging the ecosystem. I know all of us on this conference, we are aware about the climate issues. And it is real, it is obvious, but we can do something to prevent the further damage. Research has shown that more than 60% of our ecosystem are already destroyed. So we have 40% to manage and to take care of. And if it collapses, if we don't do anything, it will give unknown consequences that we cannot imagine. So that's why we cannot afford the problem. And also, Professor Amit said something about resources. If we look about waste management in terms of resource utilization, if we burn our waste like we are doing in Africa today, and we are not conserving them, this can lead to economic problem, even from material issue, from resource issue, not just the environment. So the aspect of waste and environmental issues in sustainability is very, very important for us to think about. And we have seen before that the struggle to control resources, it can lead to frequent social instability, and it can even lead to war. So that is why we have to take our resource as very important. And our resource as it is today, part of it is our waste streams. So we have seen what we have been doing in Africa, how we are managing our waste that is not sustainable. And what is the solution? Then we have to think sustainability, and then how do we manage waste in a sustainable manner? So I'll be talking again about the sustainable waste management for us to understand what we need to do. And then sustainable waste management is a concept where we see waste as a resource. We are not seeing a waste material that has reached its end of life as something that has finished its life. No. This is something we look at as after it's finished its work, probably as a phone, then I can use it for another thing. That is the concept of sustainable waste management. And also, we think of circular economy. Circular economy is the circular utilization of materials, that we are not using it linearly, just from production to end of its life. Even when it has reached the end of its life, we put it back into the value chain to produce another thing. That is the circular economy, and it is very, very interesting subject today in Sweden. And also we think about waste to energy. When we are talking about sustainable waste management, we try to recover as much as possible energy that we can get from it. So sustainable waste management, think of resource efficiency, resource recovery, and it protects the environment. And on top of it all, it reduces the climate impacts that unsustainable waste management generates. And also, if we have a sustainable waste management, we can also control the emissions even from fossil, because then we use our biofuels instead of the fossil. And sustainable waste management as a concept addresses 6 out of the sustainable developmental goals. It provides affordable and clean energy. We have sustainable cities. It takes care of life on land, below water, and it leads to responsible consumption and production. So this is the way everybody should go. And by this, I want to say that a particular country has been able to achieve high in terms of this sustainable waste management. And that leads me to talk about Sweden, where I currently live and work. And Sweden is one of the best countries to live in the world. It's a small country compared to Nigeria. We are just about 10 million people. And in landmass, we have like 450,000 square meters. So we have a very broad landmass, but we are not so much. Maybe you can think of half of people that live in Lagos State, that lives in the whole country of Sweden. But the reason why we have been able to do this good thing we are doing is not just because we are not many. It's because of some things that have been put in place, which we cannot also do. We can do it in Nigeria, we can do it in Africa, we can do it in other countries as well. And thank God that technology has given us the opportunity to be able to transfer knowledge and use it in another place. And Sweden is a very lovely country. So I enjoy you to visit Sweden sometime soon after the pandemic is over. So we'll be expecting you and we'll be happy to host you. We are close to Norway, Denmark. We have them as our neighbors. And it's one of the Nordic countries. It's a very beautiful country. We love outdoors, and we are also thinking sustainably in Sweden. Then I'll be talking about how we have been able to manage our resources in Sweden in terms of our waste management. Today, as it stands, Sweden is a zero waste society. You can't see waste on the street like we see in Africa. You can't see it. It is a resource. It is a valuable resource that we use every day. And from these statistics, from the Affärsverket, that is the waste organization of Sweden, it's just 0.7% of the whole Swedish waste that goes into landfill today. 50% of our waste stream goes into energy recovery, 31% going to biological recovery. We have reconstruction, we have recycling, we have different ways where we utilize our waste streams. So we don't see what other people see as waste. We don't see them as waste, we see them as valuable resources in Sweden. And how have we been able to achieve this? The European Union in itself, we have a waste hierarchy that we think of and we work with. And the waste hierarchy is a concept in the mind of everybody in Europe that I have to reduce waste. That's the first thing. When I'm producing, or when I'm doing some, when I'm buying, when I'm living, I have to make sure as much as the first thing on our mind is to reduce waste. Then by the time we cannot reduce any longer, then we reuse that particular product as long as possible. And after we have used it for as long as possible, then we recycle it, probably into making another product. And apart from that, then we make sure that after it has been recycled, we recover energy. Then the final option is to go to landfill. And the roadmaps that Sweden has been able to use to achieve this zero waste society is that we have this reduce in a concept. We have integrated product policy, that when you are designing a product, even as a company, as an organization that is producing a product, you have to think of what that product will be used for again. And also that as an individual, as a person, as an organization, we don't produce unnecessary waste. That is very, very important. And even when we have produced, we have sustainable production and utilization of our products. So that helps us in reducing the waste. Then in reuse, our waste stream, we have the second-hand market. It's very popular in Sweden now to have second-hand stores. Different organizations, churches, they call individuals, just stay on the street. You see different second-hand stores. And these second-hand stores, you can buy good quality products, even in the second-hand stores. Maybe you buy a shoe and you don't like it. Instead of throwing it in the waste bin, you give it to the second-hand and somebody can buy it even at a cheaper price. So by that, we have been able to reduce what goes into the waste stream. So it's very popular in country with different second-hand stores. I buy things from second-hand stores myself because sometimes you even find more quality products in this kind of store. And also, apart from second-hand, we can also use them for another applications. And recycle. Recycling is a concept in itself that is very broad. But just to simplify it, every can of Coke that is produced in Sweden, there is a label on it. I don't know if you can see it. You can see where I have this pointer. You can see 1 crown. You can see on the plastic also here, 1 crown. So you cannot see a can on the street. It's very rare. Because if you drop it, you don't want, somebody will pick it and go and collect 1 crown. This is the machine. We have this machine in almost all the stores where we buy foods and all those things. So you just throw this can there and you get the receipt, you get 1 crown. So as many cans you have, you can get 20 crowns, you can get 50 crowns, depending on the number of cans that you have with you. And I think as of today, 1 crown is more than 40 naira. So to those of us in Nigeria, if you are just on the street and you see somebody throwing 50 naira away, you know that they are throwing money away. So for you to understand it better. So this has helped us to reduce plastic pollution, cans on the streets, and it has really improved our waste management system. Also, we substitute virgin material with recycled material. In some productions, instead of using virgin raw materials, we mix and blend recycled material with it, and it has helped us. And also, we recover energy from our waste streams. Some plants basically have waste stream, waste as their raw material for this energy production. This is electricity. This is used for production of electricity, district heating, district cooling. And if we look at the statistics, this is for a particular city. From waste combustion alone, we have been able to produce electricity that is equal to the demand of 200,000 houses and heating of up to 700,000. So there is a huge potential that we can have from waste streams. And apart from the waste combustion, apart from the energy recovery, we also have the bio recovery, the bioenergy recovery from the waste stream. And this bioenergy is recovering the bioenergy through the bioprocessing of this waste stream. We have some microorganisms working on this waste stream, converting them to useful products for us. This has been possible because we have a process in Sweden, we call it source separation. And source separation is like we separate our waste from the household. It's so funny that when I went back to Nigeria, even though there was no recycling at home, I was separating my waste. I don't want to put cans together with food waste. I don't want to put my bottles together with other things. I was putting them in different fractions. And there at the university, Lagos State University, then there was a project that we did that how can we sort our waste at home? So that is what education does to the mind of a person, just like I said in the beginning. To me now, when I see different ways, I don't put everything together because I know they have to be sorted. So this household separation has helped us in Sweden. We have the organic fraction of our waste into a plastic bag and the non-organic into another plastic bag. So when it comes to the plant where it's being taken care of, the organic fraction goes to the biogas production because we have infrared sorting of different plastic bags, so they are not mixed up. And the organic fraction eventually is used for biogas production. So this biogas is what we use in what we call collective traffic, like we call it a public transport in Nigeria or Africa. So some of our buses, you can even see it on them, biogas buses, is from the biogas that is produced from the waste streams. And this biogas has a capacity that not just generating a biogas from the waste stream. When we put the organic fraction of our waste into the waste stream, we produce biogas and we produce digestate. And this digestate is very, very rich organic fertilizer that has helped in the agricultural practices, even in Sweden. So there is multi-benefit that waste to energy stand to give unto us. And apart from biogas, we also have the compost in some communities in Sweden from the organic fraction of the waste streams. So the compost is also for biofertilizer production, and it is very, very rich. In fact, we were told that it must be diluted with some soil because it is organic, it is natural, and it is very good for agricultural production. And I just wanted to think a little bit and pause. How much can you drive your car on 1,000 banana peel? That is a question, a simple mind-blowing question I want to think about. You can actually travel as long as 100 kilometers on biogas that is produced from 1,000 pieces of banana peels. So by the time you are eating banana and you are throwing it on the street, you are just throwing the peel away. You are throwing money away. So we need to have a system that uses that resources in a sustainable way. And also, because of our recycling mindedness in Sweden, just the bottle caps from our beer or from our Coke in the bottle and all those things, if all the bottle caps are recycled, we can produce 2,200 new 4C30 cars from this waste stream. So there is enormous potential in the waste stream that can be very, very used as our valuable resources. And apart from all this that Sweden has been able to do, there is a driving force. There is the political driving force that has helped the country to come along in this path. It's not just one day effect. It's not something that we just started one day. It took several years also. It took constant development, constant research, education, and so many things. In 1991, we have a plan, municipal waste treatment plan. This is what we want to do. Then in 1994, there was producer responsibility being introduced and landfill tax in the year 2000. And it continued like that, that at the moment, we are not allowed to put organic waste in landfill. So the government has done a lot, thinking sustainably and making policies that is beneficial for the society. And we can see that it works indeed. And apart from that, Sweden have producers' responsibility in full force. And what is producer responsibility? Is that if you are a company or you're an organization and you are producing a product, the environmental responsibility of your product lies with you as a company. So that product should not constitute environmental menace. We have it on newsprint, we have it on packagings, we have it on cars, on tires, on electronics, and it is a law that has already been adopted by the parliament. So this has helped Sweden to climb high in sustainability issues and to become what we are today in terms of waste management. And I want you to be challenged. Sweden is still not resting on our horse. Sweden is still developing, and we are still having, almost every time we have new regulation, new laws about waste that is coming into play. So we are still working. And most importantly, Sweden has been able to utilize education as its most important tool. Like Professor Amira said about Israel, we have a similar situation in Sweden, but slightly different. In Sweden, education is very, very important. And it is compulsory that every child must be in school in Sweden. So even if you have your child, you think it's just my child now, no, it's not just your child. That's what I've learned living in Sweden. You have a child or you have children, it is not just you. You cannot just do what you want. You cannot keep them at home when they should be in school. They must be in school from ages 7 to 15. That is compulsory. We also have what we call preschool. From like 1 year, they go to a preschool. We call it förskolan in Swedish. And they stay until 6 or 7 years. Then they go to the grundskolan where they begin school. So that's compulsory until they finish gymnasium. That is like our own higher secondary school in Nigeria. So it's very compulsory. And education is free. School, it is still the same curriculum, it is still the same system, and you don't have to pay for your child to be educated in Sweden. And there is equal opportunities for all children, irrespective of your race, irrespective of your gender. We have equal opportunities to quality education in Sweden. And another thing that has helped Sweden is that we have a strong collaboration between academia and industry. That is what I have also learned, that we are not just doing research in the universities. In Sweden, we are doing research that are solving societal problems. So we have a strong collaboration. We have different research institutes in Sweden, and this has also improved the country. And it has been proven that education sparkles innovation. As it stands today, year 2020, despite the challenges, the pandemic, Sweden is the second highly ranked country in the whole world in terms of innovation. And Sweden is the first in Europe in innovation index. So investing in education have its rewards. And another thing that will interest you, to those of us in Africa, is that in Sweden, children also teaches their parents. It's not just that old people know it all concept. Sometimes you get to learn a lot from your children in Sweden. They go to school, they learn different things, and it's also a system that gives a child to express themselves. So sometimes the teachers have discussions, even with the children. By doing so, we learn from these children as well. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of quality education in the mind. And if we want to pioneer a sustainable waste management in Africa through education, we have to understand that there are things we have to do and things we have to know. We have to know that Sweden is Sweden, Nigeria is Nigeria, Africa is Africa, but we have to understand what works for our own particular society. We have to have a plan. We need to have a waste treatment alternative, but we can also learn for the countries that have developed their system. So we need to have a vision. This is very, very important. I know there have been a lot of conferences about energy, about waste management, about Africa, but sometimes I think what have been the results of all this? Could it be because we don't have a plan? Could it be because we don't have a vision? Could it be that the skills is lacking? So that is why we need to have a thinking of all this as a solution system approach. We cannot think of something excluding other things. We have to think about everything as a package because they are interconnected. We need the vision, we need the skills. And this skill set and competencies, this is also where education comes in. We need people that are skilled in doing the work. We need to let them do the work. We need people that have competencies in handling projects. Let them do it. We need incentives for the society. We need to have the resources that is necessary, and we need to have action plan. If we don't have all this together, either we have confusion, we have anxiety, we have a false change, or we don't have the change. The only way to the change that we desire is to have the vision, the skill, the resources, and action plan. That is what will lead to the change that we desire. And we have to think of it as a package. And by that, I want us to see that thinking sustainably in Africa, waste to wealth, waste to energy, it has a multi-benefit for us as a society. This is some data on my thesis, my PhD thesis, that as it is now in Nigeria, several households use firewoods to cook. A little lesser percentage can cook on kerosene, very little can afford to cook on gas. Some can use electricity, which is very little, and others. We can see that majority still cannot afford this clean energy. So we have all these problems that we've used the woods to people use to cook. They have indoor air quality problem. By that, people have another problem with lungs and all this issue by cooking with fuels that is not good for their health. And you know that some of these people that use firewood for cooking, some of them have it in their kitchen, maybe in their backyard. They still inhale some of these toxic gases in their system. And the same Nigeria, this is our waste production. Just Lagos State alone, every day, Lagos is producing 10,000 tons of waste every day. And we are putting them on this landfill. And these are the waste that can be used to generate fuel that people can cook on. We can generate electricity. We have these problems in Africa. We have electricity problem. We have all these issues. So we can use all these resources to solve our problem instead of just putting them on landfill, instead of them causing problem, causing sickness and diseases. So we have a lot of benefits that we can get from sustainable waste management in Africa. And just think of this. Just in Nigeria alone, 6.8 million cubic meters of biogas can be produced just from the poultry droppings, the manure. And you know, we have, apart from poultry droppings, we have the cow feed, we have other organic materials that can be used. So I want you to leave this conference thinking, how can we transform this, our waste, into useful products? And we should not just see them as waste. Let something sparkle in you. Think solution-mindedness. So with this, I want to make some recommendations. The policymakers in Africa, sustainable waste management. We need it. We need to have a plan. Without a plan, we will just be doing things anyhow. And apart from having a plan, we have to prioritize education. Just like Professor Amit has said, we cannot overemphasize. All of us, we see what is happening in Israel. And from our presentation, we have been able to see that it is because they prioritize education. And there is a chance for us in Africa, in Nigeria, that we can even be better than all these countries if we also prioritize and we learn from all these developed countries. We have to make education affordable, accessible, and affordable for all. And also the present education system that we have need a reform. We need to train the trainers. I have some of my colleagues, maybe they are listening to us. We see that we can do better if we have proper infrastructure, proper training. There are so many things that we have to think about. So we have to fund the universities and research system. That is something that is very, very important for Africa to grow and to develop. To have a sustainable waste management, we need proper funding of our research and academic institutions. We need to facilitate industrial and academic collaborations in Africa. Development of public-private partnership is very essential because we have small organizations. In Sweden, for example, we have different startups that are starting based on these waste streams. Waste to energy, circular economy is a very popular thing in Sweden. Now, sustainability issues, and you have all this work that is going on as a collective responsibility. So public-private partnership is very essential. Then we need to introduce green education in our curriculum, just like Professor Amida said that they are doing that. I was impressed when she mentioned that. We need to do that in Africa as well. We need to have a green knowledge, green education right from childhood. And this will help our society to develop and to grow more. And also, more collaboration with developed countries. This kind of conference has opened up opportunity for us to learn from others. We have technology, we can have technology transfer, we can learn from other countries. We can have collaborations. So it is also a pathway to our own development. And one thing is that we can have a better system than these countries. If we copy from Israel, from Sweden, from US, we put it together, then we have a better solution than they have, if only we make use of our own resources. And also, with that, I want to say that Sweden is open to more collaborations. We are ready to help each other. We are one world. We want to solve this problem together. This is in 2016, when we visited Lagos, and this is one of the landfills. We were standing right on the landfill, Olusosun landfill, if I get the name right. And with Professor Muhammad, Professor Adekunle, and some other people. And we were visiting and discussing with the Lagos State Waste Management, what can we do together to reduce this enormous amount of waste that is on this landfill? How can we use them as a resource? So we have this existing collaboration that is already on the pipeline. And we were in Lagos State University giving a presentation of how important resource recovery is and how much we can get as a value-added product from our waste stream. And to you that are just listening to me, we are still open. Sweden is open for more. So you have my email in the first slide and you can contact me if you want. So I want to conclude that proper education results in a transformed mind and a better society. And Sweden has an excellent model of sustainable waste management system. And we are still developing that. Through education, constant development, Sweden has become a zero waste society. And we are still developing. And sustainable waste management system, if implemented properly in Africa, we address the energy, the environmental problems, and all other problems that we have. If we create jobs and we solve different problems, and a system solution through proper education should be our goal in Africa. And the last but not the least, Africa should make education a top priority. And I want to conclude with this slide. This is where we have this waste in our backyard on the street, but we are transforming to a sustainable waste management through proper development, collaboration, education. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thumb up for Dr. Foluke Ishola from Sweden. Is very, very interesting, just like Professor Hamid has presented. It's very wonderful. We would hand over to Dr. Akinshemolu, who will coordinate this. Linda Mons, together with Dr. Akinshemolu, will also take us through documentary. But before the documentary, we will take questions for Dr. Foluke Ishola, and we will soon excuse Professor Amit, who has another official meeting to attend, but maybe she will still want to ask or contribute.
I want to make
to
a
one or
comment.
two things. Okay,
I
Prof.
want to make a comment. Is
Okay,
it possible
Prof.
to make a comment?
Sure, you can.
Okay, I'm sorry I have to leave soon, but first of all, very nice presentation, and you are very enthusiastic.
Thank you.
But yes, and of course, it's important to make priority. But I want to mention two things, not so much to question. In many programs, for instance, the mathematics, people said, okay, in Finland, it's working wonderful. Let's make it here. In Singapore, it's working wonderful. Let's make it. We have to be very cautious when we take a program from one state to put it in another state, because it's not working. You have to adapt. You have to, and it cannot come from top down. I know very well Sweden in Göteborg is working, my very good friend, Livland. So I know very well. It's not the same culture. It's not the same infrastructure. So we have to be very cautious when we take from one place to the other one. We in Israel, we collaborate with Africa, we collaborate with the Middle East. Now we start to collaborate very much with Abu Dhabi. I'm collaborating personally, but we have to be very cautious. You are saying all the time by us in Sweden, it cannot be patronizing. We are not patronizing. Every nation and every place has its own culture, its own habits, its own dignity. So it has to be top down and bottom up. And if it goes together, then we are in the same direction, international collaboration, but with dignity for all sides. And then it will work. And I have one comment to my presentation. I was now with a friend in the US, and another implication, unfortunately, of COVID-19, and this goes back to my presentation, that in many states in the US, more than a third, 1 of every 3 teachers are going to leave this year because they cannot make it anymore in, with technology in Zoom. So we are losing all over the world, lots of teachers. We have to take it into consideration. I thank you all very much. I'm going now to another Zoom. Thank you and good luck. Good luck, Africa. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor Hamid. We quite appreciate. Bye. Okay, Dr. Akinshemolu, please over to you to coordinate the question time after the comments of Professor Hamid. Thank you, Dr. Akinshemolu.
All right, Dr. Foluke, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you so much for your time. Can you hear me? Can you give a thumbs up?
I'm hearing you.
All right, great. So the first question I have is that we understand the behavioral attitudes of Africans towards waste generation, stemming from consumerism and negligence. So the thing is also, if you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, especially in Nigeria falls under the physiological basic needs. That means people are still struggling for access to clean water, to food, to security. Whereas in places like Sweden or most developed societies, they are on the top of the pyramid, which is more like self-actualization. So the question is, how can you change attitudes of people that are still trying to get the basics of life in terms of they're still trying to get water, they're still trying to get food, they're still trying to have access to 24 hours electricity. How can you change their attitudes towards waste? And how can educational institutions embark on this to bring attitudinal changes, especially in sub-Saharan Africa?
I want to answer that question by using one of the slides that I spoke about. If we look at this slide,
Okay.
We need to think of it as a system solution, irrespective of the living condition of any society. We generate waste. It is constant. So the status of Africa, even if we are still struggling for some basic needs, it does not mean that we don't have a mind. It does not mean that we don't have a brain that to think. So we just have to have a system that makes people to think change. Of course, some people are saying maybe we are resistant to change. I don't want to believe that. I believe we can have a system change. We can think in a way that we bring solution. That is where this incentives comes in. Incentive in itself is a driving force. If we have a system that if everybody drop their organic waste, then they get cooking fuel in their house cheaper, then everybody wants to do that. So it is something that we have to adapt. Like the societal values of a particular society must be taken into consideration. Then we have a plan based upon that. So it is just this slide telling us all this. That is what will give us this result. So we need to know that no matter how poor or rich a society is, we have our waste that we are generating every day. Then we develop a vision based on that status. We make the waste treatment alternative accessible, the collection accessible, and what works in our society is what we prioritize. We just think of the result that we want to achieve. So I think with that in mind and the right action plan, we can have the change that we desire.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that Sweden has a zero waste. Of course, I mean, we're talking about 99% of the waste of Sweden is recycled, because my concern is that we have to look at recycling and incineration, because from research it says that Sweden incinerates about 50% of its waste, and incineration is not necessarily recycling. It's transformation, because to recycle something means that you're generating new products from what you're recycling. So is it safe to actually say that Sweden actually has a zero waste economy, or can we say that, I mean, if they are not recycling it, if it's not like they're making new products, is this safe to say that?
It is very safe if you follow the presentation very well. That you know it to be incineration, but we call it energy recovery from waste.
Okay.
So we are actually recovering energy. We have waste boilers where we use this waste as the fuel in the boilers. So this waste is being converted into energy. So it's not just that we are burning them for burning waste. Yes, this is the slide. So in this, we are combusting waste to generate district heating, district electricity. So it's not that we are just combusting them. So these are the boilers where this is a waste stream and is used as a fuel. Then eventually it produces heating or electricity. So it is actually,
so the question is,
it's producing a product.
Okay, so during incineration, aren't there greenhouse emissions though, before it is converted into energy? Are there some that are lost in the atmosphere?
When we combust, we use the word combustion of waste instead of the word incineration. So during the process of combustion, of course, we have some gases that are emitted, but that is always under control. I'm sitting in one of the plants where we are using pellets as our fuel, and we are always checking what are the gases that is being emitted so that they are under the control and is safe for the environment. So this is very sustainable and it's very, very green.
Thank you very much for that wonderful answer to the question. Another question I have is that we all are aware of the COVID-19 pandemic, and because of, in order to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, there's been face coverings, disposable and reusable things that people use to protect themselves, and they are now mandatory in public places. However, the problem with that is that disposable mask is also causing enormous plastic waste. So how can governments, because now we're seeing like a lot of plastic waste are in the ocean. So it's like you're moving from one, you're trying to prevent a problem, but you're moving to another problem of pollution. So what policies or what actions needs to be put in place, especially for a place like Nigeria, where we don't actually have effective waste management system? When people use their face masks, they probably drop it on the floor, or maybe they put it in their dustbin and then it still goes back to the landfills and cause pollution and has a detrimental effect on the marine environment. So what can we do to ensure that, as much as we're trying to prevent COVID-19 from spreading, we're also not creating a greater risk of or risking the health of the environment?
We know that COVID-19 has brought a lot of challenges, not just environmental challenges, also health challenges. But if we have a system that already gives the people a mindset that I should not drop a mask anywhere, then that's already addressed the problem. It is like a way of living in Sweden that we don't just throw away things on the street. We live with that concept. That's why I said it's important to have green education in our curriculums in Nigeria, in Africa, because if a child grow up with something, then it's become their values, it becomes their way of life. There was a time I was traveling in a public transport in Nigeria. I find it difficult to throw something just down like other people were doing it, because we don't do that in Sweden. So it's like part of me that I have to look for a waste bin to throw waste. So if the government provide waste bins on the street that drop this, and we now have to have a policy orientating the mind of people that waste belongs to this place. You don't put it just anyway. So it's something that might take time, but the government needs to have a policy, and we need to orientate the society about the benefits that they stand to get from this kind of attitude.
Okay.
I remember when I was younger, we used to think, some people throw their waste in Nigeria when it is rainy, instead of going to those land, they just put it in the rain. So you used to think, it has taken it to the sea. But now I understand that it's still circulating, it's not going it's coming back to you one day. So we need to introduce this kind of mindset into the society and let people see, with this kind of conference, with this kind of our organizations, our churches, our programs, let people know. So we need green education in the society and even in our schools. That, I think, will address that sustainably.
Thank you very much for that wonderful input. Green education is very important. May I mention that at the Green Institute, we've actually developed a curriculum called Green Education for primary school and secondary school students, and it's in the second year of implementation. Maybe after this conference, we might invite you to also help us contribute your own quota into developing to expanding the green education curriculum. We have a question from Living Green. He or she said, "Hello, Dr. Foluke. How sustainable are the waste recycling or management approaches of Sweden?" I think we've already addressed that a little. And then it says, "How does Sweden address emissions that may occur from any CO2 emanating from recycling or renewable efforts?" I think you touched on that a little bit.
I said it earlier on, because all these production plants, producing energy, producing district heating, we are always under control. As an environmental engineer, we are always like the task force that, okay, they have to comply. This is the limit of the CO2, the NOx, the SOx. Yeah, just yesterday, I was discussing with my boss about SOx and all these things. So we are always checking, because we are not just, we don't want to produce district heating and we are releasing a dangerous gas again. So there are always measures to check if we need to change something in the plant, if something needs to be maintained, if something needs to be. So this is all already part of our thinking every day.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask a question about food, even though since we're talking about waste, because usually when we talk about waste, we talk about waste generically, or maybe plastic waste and other waste that we're more familiar with. So if we're looking at it from thinking about 10 years from now, 10 years from now, for me, I would hope that every individual in the heart of London to the rural parts of Malawi have access to affordable and nutritious food. Because I think if you're looking at the sustainable development goals, I think food is also very important, because when people are well fed, they will also be able to live their life in a way that they can contribute to other aspects of the goals. And also we know that the human experience, nothing defines the human experience as food. So I just want you to shed more light when we say something about waste equals food, because we know that nature operates according to a system of nutrients and metabolism in where there's no such thing as waste, as we talked about in the case of Sweden. So what does it mean to say something like waste equals food? What does that mean? Say waste equals food.
In one perspective, if we think sustainably, that as a circular economy, we can see that waste in itself is money. The business of waste can put food on the table in itself. So the business of handling waste, producing value-added products from waste streams in a different perspective can put food on the table, can solve different problems, generate employment, make people live good, healthy, have clean environments. And like I said, in the biogas production, when we produce biogas, the digestate that has been produced alongside is being used in agricultural practice to grow the food. So in different perspectives, waste can be connected together with sustainable food production and healthy living.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question, the last question from Dr. Ojewumi, said that, what are the waste generated by Sweden? Which one is the most generated?
At the moment, we have different waste like everybody have, like you have in Nigeria as well. We have the household waste, we have industrial waste, we have effluent, we have different waste, and they are in different proportions. You can contact me personally so that we can get the right statistics. But the main thing is, because we already have it as household, organic fraction of our waste, the waste you get in your kitchen, when food is the food residue, when your child cannot finish their food, to us in Sweden, they are not waste. In fact, you see some of the vehicles, they say tack for Martin. That is thank you for your food. The food that is remaining from your table, we use it to produce biogas. So we have a container for that. Some communities have plastic bags, some communities have a paper bag. So all those organic fraction, when you are cooking, the peels, the fruit waste and all those things, they go into that. It's already sorted from the house. So then they go into the compost or the biogas production. Then our papers, packagings, they have different places where we put them right from our household. So we generate different fractions of waste like everybody does, but we have it sorted correctly from the household. So you can contact me also. We can take it further if you want more statistics and data about that.
Thank you very much for that wonderful insight. At this point, we're going to take comments from the audience. Do we have anybody that wants to comment or say something to Dr. Foluke? Please. Do we have any comments or questions? All right.
So, okay. Glenn from Abu Dhabi wants to speak. Okay, please, Glenn from Abu Dhabi.
Hello, welcome. Thank you everyone for having me here today and for this process. It's really nice to see you all. I wanted to ask our speaker to comment on the idea that is the presentation make an assumption that waste is amount of waste being transferred from one country to another, and it's usually from the high income mass production societies to lower income, middle income countries that are the recipients. So the rich countries will see it as a solution to their waste problem to simply pay to have it shipped over to European waste, for example, ending up in Turkey. And I wondered if Dr. Foluke, if you would comment on that.
Thank you. To my knowledge, I think the waste that we generate in Sweden, we are taking care, they are being taken care of here, to my knowledge. The household waste, like I said, the organic fraction, they are being taken care of right here in Sweden. I've visited one of the plants, not just one. I have been to some of the biogas plants myself here in Sweden. In fact, there was a time that they said Sweden is importing waste from Norway at a time. So to my knowledge, we are taking care of this organic waste right here in Sweden. And other countries can also do so. We just need these infrastructures put in place to take care of what we produce, what we use every day.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. I hope you are okay, or you still have further comments.
You can also contact me and we can also have a further discussion.
Thank you.
It would be nice.
Yeah, the next step of circular economy would be for waste to no longer be considered a problem, however, a resource, which is, rather than the recipient countries receiving it as as rubbish, receiving it as part of this circular economy that can be part of a resource to be put back into the economy as well. So I think that's the kind of next step thinking that that would, if Sweden were to continue to benefit by, solving the problems of, say, UK rubbish problem and, importing it to Sweden and then putting it into that circular economy.
Yeah, we are already thinking circular economy. It's so popular now in Sweden about this concept. Despite that, we have come a long way in waste to wealth, waste to energy and all this. But circular economy in the research institutions, in organizations, and in fact, there is a lot of startups based on this circular economy now that is in place in Sweden today.
All right, thank you, Dr. Foluke, for the wonderful presentation. We cannot appreciate you enough, Dr. Foluke Ishola from Gothenburg University. Gothenburg Energy, Sweden. Thank you so much. You have really shown that you are an orator and then an expert in your field of specialization. We want to appreciate you, and I hand over to Dr. Akishimolu for a brief documentary that will be anchored by Dr. Akishimolu and Linda Moss. Please, over to you for just a brief documentation before we bring the third speaker, who will be the last speaker for this session, and then we go for break. After that, we will come back for those who have paper presentations at the plenary. Thank you so very much, Dr. Akishimolu.
So we're going to watch a video on building on what Dr. Foluke just presented about waste, as there's no such thing as waste. We're going to watch a video titled Turning Trash into Toys for Learning. So for the teachers that are educators within us, they can think about innovative ways where they can transform their trash into toys or even usable products. So the video is about 15 minutes and it's by Avid Gupta. So please enjoy the video.
My name is Arvind Gupta and I'm a toy maker. I've been making toys for the last 30 years. The early 70s, I was in college. It was a very revolutionary time. There was a political ferment, so to say, students out in the streets of Paris, revolting against authority. America was jolted by the anti-Vietnam movement, the civil rights movement. In India, we had the Naxalite movement, the Jayaprakash Narayan movement. Whenever there is a political churning of society, it unleashes a lot of energy. The national movement in India was testimony to that. Lots of people resigned from well-paid jobs and jumped into the national movement. Now, in the early 70s, one of the great programs in India was to revitalize primary science in village schools. There was a person, Anil Sadgopal, did a PhD from Caltech and returned back as a molecular biologist in India's cutting research institute, the TIFR. At 31, he was not able to relate the kind of esoteric research which he was doing with the lives of the ordinary people. So he resigned and went and started a village science program. Many people were inspired by this. The slogan of the early 70s was, go to the people, live with them, love them, start from what they know, build on what they have. This was the kind of defining slogan. Well, I took 1 year. I joined Telco, make Tata trucks very close to Pune. I worked there for 2 years and I realized that I was not born to make trucks. Often one doesn't know what one wants to do, but it's good enough to know what you don't want to do. So I took 1 year off and I went to this village science program, and which was a turning point. It was a very small village, a weekly bazaar where people just once in a week, they put in all their wares. So I said, I'm going to spend a year over here. So I just bought one specimen of everything which was sold on the roadside. And one thing which I found was this black rubber. This is called as a cycle valve tube, where you pump in a bicycle, use a bit of this. And there's some of these models. So you take a bit of the cycle valve tube, you can put 2 matchsticks inside this, and you make a flexible joint. It's a joint of 2. You start by teaching angles, an acute angle, a right angle, a obtuse angle, a straight angle. It's like a universal coupling. If you had 3 of them and you loop them together, well, you make a triangle. With 4, you make a square, you make a pentagon, you make a hexagon, you make all these kinds of polygons. And they have some wonderful properties. If you look at the hexagon, for instance, it's like an amoeba, which is constantly changing its outer profile. You can just pull this out, this becomes a rectangle. Give it a push, this becomes a parallelogram. But this is very shaky. Look at the pentagon, for instance, pull this out, this becomes a boat-shaped, a trapezium. Push it and it becomes a house-shaped. This becomes an isosceles triangle, again, very shaky. Give it this, the square might look very square and prim. Give it a little push, this becomes a rhombus. It becomes a kite-shaped. But give a child a triangle, well, she can't do a thing to it. Why use triangles? Because triangles are the only rigid structures. We can't make a bridge with squares because if the train would come, it would start doing a jig. Ordinary people know about this because if you go to village India, they might not have gone to engineering college, but no one makes a roof truss like this because they put tiles on top, it's just going to crash. They always make a triangular roof. Now, this is people science. If you were to just poke a hole over here and put a third matchstick, you get a T-joint. And if I were to poke all the 3 legs of this in the 3 vertices of this triangle, I would make a tetrahedron. So you make all these 3D shapes, you make a little tetrahedron like this. And once you make these, well, you make a little house, put this on top, you can make a joint of 4, you can make a joint of 6, you just need a thorn. Now this was, make a joint of 6, you make a icosahedron. It's like, you can play around with it, this makes like an igloo. Now this is in 1978, I was a 24-year-old young engineer. And I thought this is so much better than making trucks. and this is, if you, as a matter of fact, put 4 marbles inside, you simulate the molecular structure of methane, CH4, 4 atoms, the hydrogen, the 4 apex of the tetrahedron, between the little carbon atom. And well, since then, I just thought that I've been really privileged to go down to over 2,000 schools in my country village schools, government schools, municipal schools, Ivy League schools. I've been invited by most of them. And every time I go to a school, I see a gleam in the eyes of the children. I see hope. I see happiness in their faces. Children want to make things. Children want to do things. Now, we make lots and lots of pumps. Now, this is a little pump with which you could inflate a balloon. It's a real pump. You could actually pop the balloon. We have a slogan that the best thing a child can do with a toy is to break it. So all you do is to it's a very kind of provocative statement. It's a old bicycle tube, and this is based on a chance discovery. If you take these film cans, they go very snugly into an old bicycle tube, and this is how you make a valve. You put a little sticky tape. This is one-way traffic. Well, you make lots and lots of pumps, and this is the other one, that you just take a straw and you just put a stick inside this. And you make 2 half cuts. Now this, what you do is you bend both these legs into a triangle and you just wrap some tape around. And this is the pump. And now if you have this pump, it's like a great sprinkler. It's like a centrifuge. If you spin something, it tends to fly out. Well, in terms of, if you were in Andhra Pradesh, you would make this with the palmyra leaf. Many of our folk toys have great science principles. If you spin something, it tends to fly out. If I do it with both hands, you can see this one, Mr. Flying Man. Right? This is a toy which is, this is made from paper. It's amazing. There are 4 pictures. You see insects, you see frogs, snakes, eagles, butterflies, frogs, snakes, eagles. Here's a paper which you could turn. It's designed by a mathematician at Harvard in 1928, Arthur Stone, documented by Martin Gardner in many of his many books. This is great fun for children. The old study about the food chain, that insects are eaten by the frogs, frogs are eaten by the snakes, snakes are eaten by the eagles. And this can be, if you had a old photocopy paper, A4 size paper, you could be in a municipal school, you could be in a government school, a paper, a scale, and a pencil. No glue, no scissors. In 3 minutes, you just fold this up. And what you could use it is just limited by your imagination. If you take a smaller paper, you make a smaller flexigon. With a bigger one, you make a bigger one. Now this is a pencil with a few slots over here, and you put a little fan here. This is a 100-year-old toy. There have been 6 major research papers on this. There's some grooves over here, you can see, and I take a refill. If I rub this, something very amazing happens. 6 major research papers on this. As a matter of fact, Feynman as a child was very fascinated by this. He wrote a paper on this. And you don't need the $3 billion Hadron Collider for doing this. This is there with every child, and every child can enjoy this. If you were to put a color disk, well, all the 7 colors coalesce. And this is what Newton talked about 400 years back, that white light is made 7 colors just by spinning this around. This is a straw. What we've done, we've just sealed both the ends with tape, nipped the right corner and the bottom left corner. So there are holes in the opposite corners. There's a little hole over here. Now this is a kind of a blowing straw. I just put this inside this. There's a hole here, and I shut this. This costs very little money to make, great fun for children to do. What we do is a very simple electric motor. Now, this is the simplest motor on earth. The most expensive thing is the battery inside this. If you have a battery, it costs 5 cents to make it. This is the old bicycle tube, which gives you a broad rubber band, 2 safety pins. This is a permanent magnet. Whenever current flows through a coil, this becomes electromagnet. It's the interaction of both these magnets which makes this motor spin. Made 30,000. Teachers who've been teaching science for donkey years, they just mug up the definition and they spit it out. When teachers make it, children make it, you can see a gleam in their eye. They get a thrill of what science is all about. And this science is not a richy man's game. In a democratic country, science must reach to our most oppressed, to the most marginalized children. Now, this program started with 16 schools and spread to 1,500 government schools. Over 100,000 children learn science this way. And we're just trying to see possibilities with, look, this is the Tetra Pak, all full material from the point of view of the environment. There's 6 layers, 3 layers of plastic, aluminum, which are sealed together. They're fused together, so you can't separate them. Now you can just make a little network like this, and fold them and stick them together and make an icosahedron. So something which is trash, which is choking all the sievers, you could just recycle this into a very, very joyous, all the platonic solids could be made with things like this. This is a little straw, and what you do is you just nip two corners here, and this becomes like a baby crocodile's mouth. Put this in your mouth and you blow. It's the children's delight, a teacher's envy, as I say. You're not able to see how the sound is produced because the thing which was vibrating was inside my mouth. I'm going to keep this outside, so blowing out. I'm going to suck in air. So no one needs to actually mug up. For production of sound, we require vibrations. The other is that you keep blowing at it, keep making the sound, and you keep cutting it, and something very, very nice happens. And when you get a very small one, this is what the kids teach you. You can also do this. Well, before I go any further, this is something worth sharing. This is a touching slate meant for blind children. This is strips of Velcro. This is my drawing slate. And this is my drawing pen, which is basically a film box. It's basically like a fisherman's line, a fishing line. And this is wool over here. If I crank the handle, all the wool goes inside. And what a blind child can do is to just draw on this. Wool sticks on Velcro. There are 12 million blind children in our country who live in a world of darkness. And this has come as a great boon to them. There's a factory out there making our children blind. We're not able to provide them with food, not able to provide them with vitamin A, but this has come as a great boon for them. There are no patents, anyone can make it. Well, this is a very, very simple, you can see this is a generator. It's a crank generator. These are two magnets. There's a large pulley made by sandwiching rubber between two old CDs, small pulleys, two strong magnets, and there's 500 turns of wire attached to a LED. If I spin this pulley, the small one is going to spin much faster. There would be a spinning magnetic field. Lines of force would be cut. There'd be EMF generated. And you can see this LED is going to glow. So this is a small crank generator. Well, this is, again, just a ring, a steel ring with steel nuts. And what you can do is just, if you give it a twirl, well, they just keep going on. And imagine a bunch of kids standing in a circle and just waiting for the steering to be passed on. And they'd be absolutely joyous playing with this. Well, in the end, what we can also do we use a lot of old newspapers to make caps. This is worthy of a Sachin Tendulkar. It's a great cricket cap. Well, first you see Nehru and Gandhi. This is the Nehru cap, just half a newspaper. Well, we make lots of toys with newspapers. This is one of them. And this is, you can see this is a flapping bird. All our old newspapers, we cut them into little squares. And if you have one of these birds, children in Japan have been making this bird for many, many years. And this is, you can see this a fantail bird. Well, in the end, I'll just end with a story. This is called as the captain's hat story. Captain was a captain of a seagoing ship. Goes very slowly. There were lots of passengers in the ship. They were getting bored, so the captain invited them on the deck. You know, wear all your colorful clothes and sing and dance, and I'll provide you with good food and drinks. And the captain would wear a cap every day and join in the regalia. The first day it would be a huge umbrella cap, like a captain's cap. The second, that night when the passenger would be sleeping, he would give it one more fold. And the second day, he would be wearing a fireman's cap with a little chute. It's like a designer cap because it protects his spinal cord. And the second night, he would take the same cap and give it another fold. And the third day, it would be a shikari cap. It's like a adventurer's cap. And the third night, he would give it two more folds. And this is a very, very famous cap. If you've seen any of our Bollywood films, this is what the policeman wears. It's called as a Pandu cap. It's been catapulted to glory, to international glory. And we must not forget that he was a captain of the ship. So that's a ship. And now Everyone was enjoying the journey very much. They were singing and dancing. Suddenly there's a storm and there's huge waves. And all the ship can do is to dance and pitch along with the waves. A huge wave comes and slaps the front and knocks it down. And then another one comes and slaps the aft and knocks it down. And there's a third one over here. This is called as a bridge and knocks it down. And the ship sinks and the captain has lost everything but for a life jacket. Thank you so much.
That was a nice presentation. That was a nice presentation, and of course, we could see how best waste can be used, and of course, you can recycle and what could be used to do, and you are able to, as a matter of fact, be able to sufficiently explore the opportunities in waste management as readily displayed in the video. Over to Dr. A. Akishemolu for introduction of the next speaker. Dr. A. Akishemolu, please, you are welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Diego. I'm going to be introducing the next speaker, Professor Taiwo Adenegan. Just give me a second to share. Okay. So Professor Taiwo Adenegan is a marital and family therapist, a behavioral scientist, and a seasoned scholar and consultant. He is an associate professor and the dean of student affairs in Achievers University in Nigeria. He holds a PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Ibadan with a specialization in youth and adolescents. Much of his work is focused on entrepreneurial development and leadership training for young minds. These are both graduates, undergraduates, and even school, university or school dropouts. He greatly impacts his world through his Better Tomorrow training consult. He's on high demand as a motivational speaker and a resource person at conferences, seminars, symposia, among others. He has authored a number of best-selling books. Permit me at this point to bring forth Professor Taiwo Adenego. He will be presenting the topic, the science and arts of education, making education count when it is the least expected. Professor Adenegon, the floor is yours now.
Okay, we can.
Thank you.
Bring him up now to have his presentation. Professor Adenegon,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to join others to. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I'm audibly heard.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
I want to join others to appreciate the organizer.
Please,
okay,
we wish to see your video.
Okay, I want to join others. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, it's on.
Okay.
The video is on.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes,
sorry, I'm having a network challenge here.
We can see your video. We can see your video now, please.
while we wait for Professor Adenegon to connect back, we can use this period to take comments from the audience or on collaborations, future collaborations, and ideas, especially on how education can contribute, can help in repositioning and transitioning global education experience beyond COVID-19. So do we have any questions from the audience? Or comments? Doesn't have to be questions, but comments.
Yeah, like I said during my presentation, I see that some people are sending messages to me, which I'm very, very impressed about. So you can send an email to me also on my email. It's on the first slide, and my personal email is mofoluwakem@gmail.com, and then my official email is foluke.ishola@yotiborienergy.se. So we can see how we can collaborate together, and we take it from here. And you can also reach me on my phone number. You can also connect with me. On LinkedIn, you can connect with me on social media as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. We can hear you.
Just to verify whether the conference, is there any form of certification? Are we going to be certified at the end of this conference?
Hello?
Yes, for people that are presented, there are people that will be presenting. And yes, there will be a certificate of participation for them.
Dr. Akishimolu, Professor Adenegon is back online.
Okay, great.
So sorry about the network interference. I had to be changing from my laptop to phone to just ensure I can manage the disruption of the network. So sorry about that. So since when I came back and I discovered there were rooms for interaction, questioning, so I decided to follow, to wait for the moderator. So thank you very much. I'm speaking on the science and art of education, making education count when it least counted. I celebrate the earlier speakers, Professor Amit and Dr. Foluke Ishola, who have spoken extensively on what to do even in the post-COVID era. I'll be looking at the impact of education, the science and art of education, making education count when it is least counted. I will be addressing my point in the following areas, looking at the introduction, meaning of education. I'll be looking at the science and art of education, the importance of education, challenges facing education, and then making education count. And I'll wrap it up with recommendations and way forward. In the 21st century, quite enough, and the importance and advantages we can derive from education. In any community where we talk about development, we cannot but lay emphasis on education. Dr. Foluke Ishola, in her presentation, highlighted some of the developmental strides made in Sweden as a result of education. And no doubt, there is no country that wants to actually pride itself among committee of nations that will not talk about education. It has been observed by development experts that improvement in human qualities play a very significant role in all aspects of development of society. And in this phase, quality education remains an essential ingredient for the improvement of human qualities across the globe. It is in the realization of this important role of education in development that the United Nations in 2000 place emphasis on education as an important human capital development objective. Therefore, for any country, any nation to talk about development and progress, you have to talk about education. And quickly, as reflection on what happened in the last few months in Nigeria and across the globe in terms of the COVID-19, the pandemic era, which relatively brought to standstill education. But for import of education in terms of technology, instead of education to come to standstill, it went to another level. And that is what, in other words, we need education to solve any challenge faced by what education. Education is concerned with the process of enlightening, maintenance, and transformation of society. Any society that needs development needs to be enlightened. And once the society is enlightened, the maintenance of even the culture of the information and then even transformation, it has to be sustained by education. Education is the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university. That's why when we be talking about education, we will refer to schooling, even though we have two types of education I will be talking about shortly. Education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge. And I emphasize it, is the process of facilitating learning and acquisition of knowledge. Or some of the challenges that we are faced with, even in Nigeria context, is that we don't emphasize on education. We tend to talk about certification. What degree have you? What qualification have you? At the expense of even the knowledge expected to be acquired. Education is concerned with facilitating knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, and beliefs, even habits. Education transforms individual habits. So when we talk about education and talking about its methods, which include teaching, training, storytelling, discussion, and directed research, and that's why we will be talking about different types of education, the formal education and informal education. When we look at the role of formal education, of course, that links us with the international world. The informal education, which stems from the parents, which does not have to do with the four wall of classroom, where an individual, when a child is born, bearing in mind that level of socialization starts from the family. And it is at the level of the family, an individual, a newly born child, baby, is exposed to some level of education, and gradually he goes on with that. Then when he's introduced to the formal education. I heard Dr. Foluke Ishola mentioning the other time the importance of education, that once you are born in Sweden, you ensure it's no longer your child, whether it's not about whether he likes to go to school or not, or is exposed to formal education. No doubt, there is the role of formal education in getting the society above board of ignorance. The level of the formal education is so important. Generally talking about education, what is its importance? Proper and good education is very important for all of us. It facilitates quality learning all through the life among people of any age, group, caste, creed, religion, and even region. It is the process of achieving knowledge, values, skills, beliefs, and moral habits. And for any society, any organization, any environment to talk about development and progress, education has to play a vital role. Education is so vital that it has taken people out of poverty. Education is so important that it has brought about development. Education is so important that it has brought about value change. So education is so important, but the point is, does education count in our society? Professor Amit made reference to what's happening in Israel, and with pride, Dr. Foluke Ishola was referring to Sweden, even though our national is in Nigeria. But I saw her, she was so excited about Sorry,
Prof, for coming in. We can't see your screen, your PowerPoint slides. We cannot see your screen.
Sorry, because of the network interference, I did it on my laptop. I had to switch to phone because of the network. That is why.
Please,
that's
we'll
why
need
I'm
to
having
upload. Okay, please, we'll need to upload and send to participants your slides, please.
Okay, that would disrupt it because I prepared to use my laptop initially, but when the network was fluctuating, I had to switch to phone so that I don't have challenge in presenting.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I prepare the PowerPoint is on my laptop,
okay. Please
not
go
on
ahead.
phone. Okay, sorry about that. So the talking about about education is relative. The experience is relative to different country, to each country. Nigeria is so peculiar with the kind of challenges we are facing. Today we talk about some sects, the Boko Haram, that the type of injury and societal havoc they believe. Some of the things they are creating too, they are using knowledge, even unknown to them or ignorantly. They are using the knowledge of education too to commit the havoc. So what are the challenges we are facing that are making education not to count in Nigeria? I'll first of all address the issue of insufficient funding. Talking about the budget, today, when we look at the national level, look at Nigerian students are being on strike for how many months now? I mean, Nigerian students not on strike directly, but because of the lecturers that are on strike. We could recall the havoc wreaked as a result of the hashtag #EndSARS saga because of many young people that are idle. Easily they could congregate together, they could form with their collective behavior. We saw what happened. So, but because the education in Nigeria is not properly funded in terms of budget, in terms of release of funds, and even in terms of motivation. So the level at which education should have taken us in this country would have been far, and we should be able to compare favorably with other countries, whether with our counterparts, but because it is poorly funded. Even where the fund is made available, you see contractors doing a shoddy job, a job that will not stand the test of time. These are some of the challenges. We have policy somersault, another challenge facing education that is not allowing education. We have depending on the belief or the ideology, and that affects the influence, affects the output of education. Policy somersault, when a leader or a government gets there and what another government has sustained as left held, and then with a change in the policy. I am aware of the policy statement made by our dear president recently about improvement in the salary scale of teachers. I was aware that many governors called Mr. President and said, oh, you didn't take us along, you didn't carry us along in this decision. And then, of course, for it to be implemented, it will now be a dichotomy between the federal government and the state government. Looking at, again, another challenge facing education. You see individuals, those days we sang song in our primary school that if you study your book, if you read very well, your shoe will make sound with all pride. But today, we see graduates, we see master holders, PhD holders, roaming about the street, applying here and there. Unemployment is another basic fundamental challenge facing education. When an individual goes all the way, as for about, and then you talk about entrepreneurial training, and they ask a graduate, oh, come and learn the soap making, come and
We are sorry. We just want to try to see we can share the slides from the moderator screen. So please just bear with us. The network from his end, but of course, if we are sharing from our hand here, and his location is to talk to the, speak to the paper, then we would be having a little interference if his network is not stable and we are sharing screen. So please just give us 11 minutes. Okay, started that. Thank you. Okay, we want to thank you for watching the interlude. We have said this we will send the slides and so that people can we'll send the slides and then people will be able to get all the slides presentation and sorry, these are part of those things, challenges we are talking about, that repositioning and transitioning global education beyond COVID-19. Of course, what we saw during COVID-19, where especially most schools in Nigeria were not prepared for the challenges, and it came suddenly, where online teaching became somehow burdensome to some schools, and why it was just a foreign idea to many schools or even many teachers in this present technological age. And of course, this we have to brace up and see that this will be able to change. And beyond COVID-19, what experience we have had during COVID-19, we should be able to sustain and now be able to say, okay, taking education beyond this level, beyond COVID-19 experience, where schools have to be almost permanently or temporarily for a very long time shut down, especially in our country, Nigeria, and we just resume back to schools. And before again, we had the NSAS protests that almost disrupted our educational activities. So the school has to see beyond learning, beyond the classroom environment only, that teaching and learning have to be taken in that line. And of course, these are part of those things we want us take home to for all of us to take home after this precious conference. So we would want resolutions of part of those things, why we had the use with the presenter, and then we will have to just take general comments on how to help fundamentally, not only in Nigeria, in Africa and in the whole world, because COVID-19 was something we all never prepared for, and we never dreamt that we'd have that. And of course, that's that one have to solve the educational curriculum, the calendar and everything. And of course, schools and nationwide and globally have to adjust or see that we adjusted to all what we had. And there is the need, of course, serious need for all stakeholders, teachers, even our students, to brace up for whatever educational challenges that may come up in the academic setting. So not only primary school, secondary school, tertiary institutions alike, that we have to just see that beyond the four walls of the classrooms, education has to be taken more seriously, and all stakeholders have to see policies that have to be formulated, not just as mentioned by the last speaker who said policy somersault. It will not just be expressing policy somersault, but of course, cogent and remarkable budget formulation and policy formulations that will aid the sustainability of education in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the whole world. So we go into interactive sessions now, where we would appreciate participants to please their comments or one thing or the other based on all what we discussed on the theme of the conference, repositioning and transitioning global education beyond COVID-19 experience. Thank you. Dr. Akinshemolu, please over to you for moderation for the interactive session, please.
taking nutrition. Watermelon, watermelon, pineapple, pineapple, papaya, papaya, fruit salad, fruit salad. We are taking nutrition. Watermelon, watermelon, pineapple, pineapple.
This man is wasting my time. He's not saying anything.
Hello. 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 Hello, please. Hello, house. The moderator, sorry, do I still have the floor? Hello? Hello, do I still have the floor, please?
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Okay, so sorry about it. The network is not really on my side today. I have been battling and struggling with the network. I've had to be communicating with the coordinator through WhatsApp background. Sorry, this is one of the challenges we are facing with education in Nigeria. As we talk about the global, the post-COVID era, trying to go online. Thank you, I will try and make it snappy. Trying to go online in the post-COVID era, we saw the challenges we have been faced with on internet bandwidth, among others, in joining online conferencing or online education, among others. So this is one of the challenges we are facing in education, our level of technological advancement, and even those who are ready so sorry about that. So I was talked at the challenges facing education when the network broke. I was talking about certificate syndrome, that in Nigeria, most times we celebrate the certificate, not the knowledge. And that has affected us grossly, the level at which we should be flowing, or the level at which education should have counted in our environment. We celebrate certificate more than, and then looking at misplacement of priority in terms of what we celebrate. Nigerians sometimes can celebrate people, or let me call mediocres, those who have not achieved something that should call for attention of others or that should motivate others, the young one, where they can celebrate individuals who on social media, people who have actually not laying legacy that worth it for the younger generation. Therefore, people who are striving hard to have first class, striving hard to make it intellectually, they are not accorded that recognition. These are some of the challenges faced in education. Therefore, we need to make education count. In what areas should we do? First of all, I want to address the policy makers. It is very important that the policy makers in Nigeria, they come to terms to see that education count in our nation. It is important that policies made, they are in line with making education count. Then in terms of motivation, which is part of the recommendation, why do we have to make education count in the 24th century? We have to get it to COVID-19. We are very important that the post-COVID-19 era, to see that our education is sustainable. Nobody expected to stay at home for that 7 months, but with education, we could see people, even some individuals, achieve their vision, achieve their goal for the year 2020, despite the stay at home long holiday because of technology. That's what education can do. Because of the challenges in the 21st century, we need to make education count. What are the challenges in the 21st century? One, challenges of information technology. Information technology is on the high side. Looking at this NSAS saga recently, people who did not leave the shores of their rooms got to know what happened in Lekki, and that brought agitation from different parts of the country. That's information technology. With information technology, we can make education count. In the 21st century, there are some characteristics that are notable in the 21st century. Jobs are done faster and easier. Technology has made things so easier, and that's why today, even with level of education, without going to the four wall of classroom, you can earn a degree. There is online program. There is this our National Open University, which relatively is an offshore or offset of online program. And there's a formula that has been raised by entrepreneur in this 21st century, that an individual will do the job of 3 people. He will earn double salary, but he will have half of his time to enjoy that salary. That's some of the 21st century peculiarity. And with that, it amounts to stress. Level of stress factor or stress of individuals will increase. And then we will feel satisfied individuals because the rate of unemployment will reduce because of technology. Therefore, talking of technology, some of these challenges that education will bring, but we have to look at the way we use education to solve that challenges. We have to ensure that education counts. In other words, in our curriculum, what we are going to look at, I'll quickly go through the recommendation. I've sent it to the coordinator, the presentation, the PowerPoint, so it can be shared. We have to see what we do on the curriculum. It has to be tailor-made such that those are recipients of this education, I mean the students, they get the best, they get the required skills and knowledge that can transform them. Unfortunately, one would see today, educated people seem to be the poorest in this community. But normally, an educated person is not expected to be poor. An educated person is supposed to be enlightened. Ignorance will be far from the person, and that person will be exposed to wealth. That's what education will do. But that has to be tailored, be well integrated in our curriculum. Our curriculum has to undo that. Then we have to look at the issue of education being made accessible to all. Interestingly, where there is this free education policy, primary school, and relatively some schools they are still paying. But if we look at it today, even as society, the level of private school at primary and secondary level is alarmingly increasing because our government is only paying lip service to that free education. Education should be made free at the tier, primary and secondary tiers of education, so that at least basically an average individual in Nigeria, in our society, is exposed to education. And yesterday I was listening to a program on NTA talking about literacy, and that literacy, ability to read and write, we should sustainably, or an average Nigerian, an average member of the society should be exposed to how to read and write. Basically understanding his environment. It is then that he will not be living in the dark. Somebody can be older if he's ignorant as a result of education. He will only be living in darkness. Then I talk about the good policy making decision of our leaders. As much as possible, we should, in the process of making education count, in terms of election, bringing up those who count in education, as in politics. We should not, just because you have the money or you have the influence in quote, and then you are voted into power. We should bring in people who will have influence on education in our country. Then, as much as encouraging the tiers of education, that's of primary, secondary, and tertiary, is disturbing to see the number of months that university students are being on strike now. Even the pandemic is over, nobody knows when universities will resume. These are some of the discouragement or discouraging factors that we are having in Nigeria. At the moment, we see private institutions thriving, if not because of the cost or the financial aspect of it. We would have seen that as much as possible, the level of proliferation of tertiary institutions will be increasing like we are having in primary school, but our government needs to encourage tiers of education as much as possible to make education count. And lastly, I would say we should find a way of rewarding excellence as much as those who are doing well in terms of education, right from primary, secondary school. We should encourage them so that can challenge others to actually appreciate the value of education. And summarily, I will talk about education technology, because for us to be at par with other parts of the world, we have to improve the level of our education, of our technology, and that will significantly, again, make education count, make us to be relevant, make education to be accessible, and so that comparatively we can be at the same level with other parts of the country. It is important, irrespective of what is happening to education in Nigeria. I still say that education is very important. Looking at the science and art of education, which its philosophy has to do with getting the mind of an individual enlightened, and looking at the philosophy behind education to make sure that an individual comes out of ignorance. So I will encourage as much as possible to see that we do our best to ensure that we make education count, irrespective of the challenges being faced. Once again, thank you very much, and I appreciate your patience despite the disruption. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor Adenego. That was very concise, and that was a wonderful presentation. I think one of the important things that you said about our education is more of certificates oriented, that we like certificates in this country. So
Yes.
How do I put it? In a system or whereby people are judged based on where they have first class. I've seen students that have written research projects, and basically the supervisor will say this does not make sense, maybe because it doesn't really align with what the supervisor is doing, or maybe there are no infrastructure. So our education system does not give room for people to think outside the box. Most of our topics are restricted. They're restricted. Students have to do it this way or do it that way. Even from an academic perspective, if you're a lecturer or an academia in Nigerian universities and you're trying to bring change into the system, you will hear things like, this is how we've been doing it. This is what we have been doing.
Yes.
And when you now introduce those kind of things, then you might seem as an alien or somebody that's is different from the norm. So in a situation where the country does not embrace innovativeness, does not embrace people to think outside the box, even in classes, are students even allowed to ask questions? It's like discussion between students and lecturers are monotonous. It's the lecturer that is talking. Students are not really allowed to ask questions. When they're asking questions, it's more like you're questioning my authority. And what we need to understand is that you're, as a teacher, you're just supposed to facilitate. You're supposed to learn from your students. And there are things that they will discover that you would not even know as a lecturer. You're supposed to learn from them. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing in Nigeria, and it's hard for sustainability to occur, because for sustainability to occur, you have to put into the social aspect of education. You have to talk about the environmental aspect of education, and you have to talk about the economic aspect. So if students are not thinking, how can they innovate? How can they be entrepreneur? How can they be ethical leaders? How can education count? So what do you think? Because at the end of the day, we can all talk about the bad things that is going on in Nigeria if we don't have action. How do we, besides what the government, what everybody's talking about, what the government should do, but as academics, what are we to do in our classrooms to ensure that the education count, so that we ensure that education counts? What can we do as academic in our own classroom to ensure that education counts?
Thank you very much, the moderator. One important thing you mentioned the other time is to appreciate and allow innovation and creativity. We should not restrict students. We should not restrict. In fact, as a matter of fact, now with the level of technology, some of our students will have access to vital information that we don't have when we are accessible, and we allow our classroom to be flexible, such that we want to even harvest ideas from our students. That will enable our students to open up, not to just be restricted or limited to the information we give to them. we should, as academia, we should allow resource sharing, information sharing in the classroom. In fact, the idea of education, which says that from known to unknown, as you start your classroom, as much as possible, you allow students to share ideas, and the student who is allowed to share idea or his idea of what he knows, he will feel relevant. The next class, he wants to go and research and find out another information ahead of the lecturer, so that by the time the lecturer gets room to say, okay, what's your contribution? What do you know about it? Thereby, that will be developing such student. We should be, no doubt, we should be flexible in our classroom to allow new ideas to flow from our students. Then on the other way is, as we talk about rigidity relatively in the country in terms of our education, I want to believe that everything new, individual, including all of us, including myself, we want to restrict new things. But by the time we allow new things to come in, as we have in Nigeria now, permit me to just mention the circle of our leaders. They have not been relative new blood. Those who have been there in the last 25 years, circulating from commissioner to senate, from senate to House of Assembly to governor, it appears the same circle. If we allow for change at any level, it will influence all these things we are talking about in terms of education. We have new individuals coming up with new ideas, new individuals coming up with innovation. So we should allow innovation to thrive. What we are having across the globe now is a product of innovation. The 21st century, the technological advancement is a result of innovation. So we should not be afraid to allow innovation. Our research projects we allow our students to write. We should not allow them to just go, I'm in OAU, you go to UI, go and adopt a research project and I mark. We don't change some factors or variables. We should allow innovation as much as possible. We should be ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Foluke has something to say. Am I correct? Yes, please go ahead.
Exactly. I just want to follow up with your question because I personally experienced that when I was in Nigeria. And I think as academia, if we are many on this platform and we are listening, this is a very important subject for the education system in Nigeria. I mentioned during my presentation that we need to have train the trainers program. It's very essential. And I think our older professors should know that there is nobody that knows it all. Yes. And we should be open-minded to receive more information. I mean, I personally experienced that, okay, some people say, oh, that is Sweden, this is Nigeria, this is how we do, just like Dr. Adenike said. But we should be open to learning. No matter the stage that we have acquired, there will always be something to learn. So I think this should be a discussion in our universities. If we want to sparkle innovation in reality, we ourselves should be open to learning as teachers, as lecturers. Then the students that we are mentoring and we are teaching, we see it from us and they want to innovate. For example, a student told me that sometimes they are not even allowed to answer a question in their own words. In a university in Nigeria, that the lecturer told them, you just have to answer the way I taught you. By that, she has already limited the thinking of the student, because quoting somebody by their word, even in academia and international platform, is plagiarism in itself. So you should be able to think, read, digest the information and express it in your own way. That is, learning is taking place. So the pedagogic methodology should be implemented in Nigeria. So I want to challenge all academic people on this platform now. We can start from here. You don't know everything in your field. Be open to learning and let your students think outside the box. Please stimulate the thinking in them. Let our classes be discussion-based. And let's show them example that everybody should have an open-mindedness in learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Foluke, for that wonderful insight. Do we have any questions and comments from the audience to Professor Adenego? Questions, comments? Okay, so this is bringing us to the close of the opening ceremony of the World Sustainability Conference with the theme repositioning and transitioning global educational experience beyond COVID-19 today.
I have comments.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank to Professor Taiwo Adenego. Well, what I can say is, well, I'm proud to be a graduate of Nigeria. Like what Dr. Fuluke said, our lecturers are being, the way they taught us is what we call a cram rapport. Give me what you have been taught. Our lecturers, they are not even after innovation. Even though being a young counseling psychologist and also in missiology by now, I understand that many people are just writing papers for promotion, not for innovation. The reason why it's paining me that, and I say that as a young educationist and also a scholar and academia, I will make sure to implement whatever I'm writing. So this is a thing every person I hear, especially lecturers. This is not a paper for promotion. It's a paper for implementation and to correct your teaching skills. You see a lecturer that have been in school, that have been lecturing for more than 15 years. The same material that I used 1978 is still going to the same paper 2020. And you still believe it is also an educationist. To me, it's no. So let every participant in this place, especially lecturers, scholars, academicians, go and implement, not for promotion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tosin, for that wonderful insights and contribution. Do we have any more comments from the concerns or contributions? All right, in the absence of that.
Yeah, I just want, before you close the program, may I just say this very briefly, just as rightly mentioned the other time, while appreciating all participants who have taken pain to attend to this program. We are pleading with all of us that we should take home something and strongly believe that within and even outside COVID-19 period, we will, as a matter of fact, as competent teachers, competent academia, that we will be able to influence our society, be it in any part of the world where we are, because COVID-19 has taught us great lessons, and the experiences we have gathered from this, we cannot forget in a given. So that's what I just want us to take. And from the last speaker, those challenges we have been able to see, and then we'll be able to see, fish out opportunities that can help us to forge ahead. Thank you, and thank to all participants who have come around. So please, over to you, Dr. Akinshemodu, for both of thanks and then closing.
Yes, I would like to thank everyone for attending the World Sustainability Conference. The World Sustainability Conference is the first time we're hosting this, and we hope that next year we'll come back bigger and better. If there's anything that we need to take from this conference, is that the key to sustainable development is education. And education for sustainability has to put into consideration that students, their and their attitudes towards the environment are changed for the better, and that these students will go on into the world to become sustainability leaders that can provide solutions to challenges like climate change, like disease, inequality, etc. So this well, so I would like to thank everyone for attending the there. Thank you so much for staying till the very end. Your presentation was wonderful, was very insightful. Thank you so much for coming to the conference, or for attending. I would also like to thank the secretary of the conference, Dr. Adenego. Very, very welcome. Thank you so much for putting it together. We see some new faces. Dr. Glenn from the UAE. Thank you for attended the conference. We hope that we can foster collaborations after this conference. And also we have Professor Adebayo Sonny in the house. Thank you so much for attending the conference. Please, we're open to suggestions. If you can, please email us at WSC@green.tv. And please feel free to check out our programs. We have not just conferences, we have journal publications. We have an annual, we have a monthly program called the Green Room that you can check out. Go to the green.com.ng and you can check out our program on maybe titled the Green Room, where we bring from all over the world. We've worked with the network, Professor Jeff Sachs. We've had Omoyele Shore on our platform. We've had the UN Director of Biodiversity, Elizabeth Amarema, and a lot of other people on the Green Room. So please be sure to check out the Green Room. The next Green Room is December 18. So if you go on our website, it's free to attend the Green Room. Thank you so much for coming. And also, we have plenary presentations after this. If you're presenting a paper, the link for presentation is a closed presentation, and the link for presentation has been sent to your email or as a private message. So immediately after this session, please participants or presenters should please go into their plenary session. So Dr. Adeneko, I will hand over to you to wrap it all up.
Please, I want to say something. Professor Adebayo Sonny is the first professor of chemical engineering in the Black Africa. So I'm highly honored that he's on this platform today. Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure that you are here.
We are very grateful to have Professor Adebayo Sonny. But when I spotted him in the house, I said, oh, wonderful to have a caliber of that man in the conference. Yes, we'll now go into the break, and then we will, of course, it's almost 12:30 now. We will be going for the plenary presentations of those who have registered for paper presentation, and the link has also been sent to them. So we will go for break, and then any moment from now, those who have registered for presentation, please, you just come up for the presentation. Once again, we want to thank all of us who have participated, the program coordinator, secretary, the participants and speakers. We cannot begin to mention names: Dr. Bashoro, Engineer Doyi, Mr. Yodeli Ajayi, Professor Adenegon, Dr. Glenn Mashu, Mushet, and so many that we cannot just be mentioning who have participated in this very program. We thank you, and so we will be collaborating, and then we will also be sending future correspondences. Thank you so very much, and we appreciate everyone. So we'll see some other time. Those
hello,
who will be meeting, yes. Hello.
Please, that simply means if you did not register for presentation, you are not going to be part of a plenary. Am I correct?
You can still be part of the plenary. We have sent the paper presentation ID. It's not the same with the opening ceremony. You have that, or maybe I will just paste it here now for us to see. Okay, I will just paste the session ID. I'll paste the session. So even if you have not registered, you can also participate in the plenary. That's not a problem, please. Okay, I will do that right away. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, guys. Please register for the Green Room or for the next Green Room. And I'm thinking you can see it on the screen. So you just go to the greeninstitute.ng, and under advocacy, you see the Green Room. Quick, and we have a lot of speakers that are coming in. So please, can everybody wave? And so we see that everybody's in the room. Wave bye. Dr. Foluke, I can't see your hands up.
Ado from Sweden, we say Ado, bye-bye for now.
Glenn, how do you say bye in your language? I mean, in your country?
Masalama. Masalama.
Masalama. Do we have any other person in the room that wants to say bye-bye to everyone? Professor Sonny, please, can you say bye-bye in your language, please?
Well, bye-bye is English in Nigeria.
Bye-bye.
So, bye-bye to everybody. I wish you the best of luck. It was excellent. I'm happy I've been invited. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Tosin, Joy, do you want to say bye-bye to us in Yoruba? Odabo. All right.
Odabo. Then Igala, Chojom.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. President Legon, please.